Well, hello, amazing people. We're here in this video where we get to see the solutions to the practice questions that were pasted out in the last video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy every bit of this. If you did it, I'm here to confirm if your answers were right or you could use some corrections. And if you didn't do it, you're seeing this for the first time. My name is David, and I'm a tutor, an online chemistry tutor for high school kids. Sit back, relax, and enjoy every bit of what I've got for you. So we have the first question that says identify the reactants and the products in this chemical equation. And you can see the chemical equation. The left hand side always carries the reactants. So the reactant in this case is calcium carbonate, CaCO3. The product is always on the right hand side of the equation. So the products are calcium oxide, CaO, and carbon dioxide, CO2. Pretty easy and straight to the point. Next up, we have this chemical equation, and we are asked to identify the reactants and the products. The reactants also are on the left hand side of the chemical equation. That is zinc, Zn, and hydrochloric acid, HCl. And on the right hand side lies the product, zinc chloride, ZnCl2, and hydrogen, H2. So the reactants and the products for these chemical equations have been fully identified. Let's move on to the next question. The next question also has a chemical equation, and we are asked to identify the coefficients. So let's do that very quickly. To identify the coefficients, let's take the elements one after the other. So we have sodium, Na. Are there any numbers standing in front of sodium? Yes, we have the number 2. So that leaves us with the first number, 2. How about for chlorine, Cl2? Is there any number standing in front? No. But then that automatically tells us that there is a number 1 here, because anything that stands with the number 1 remains basically the same. So the next coefficient is the number 1. And then finally we have NaCl. NaCl has the number 2 standing in front of it. So that automatically means we have the number 2. So the coefficients in this case are 2, 1, and 2. That's for the first question. The second question says, what is the sodium to chlorine ratio? Sodium to chlorine. So let's identify the elements individually. Sodium on the left hand side of the equation has the number 2 standing in front of it. So that gives us the first part of the mole ratio, which is 2. Let me put my ratio sign. And then we have chlorine, Cl2. Cl2 has no number standing in front, but automatically it assigns a number 1. So we have 2:1. So the ratio, or the mole ratio, for sodium to chlorine becomes 2:1. That's the answer to the next question. I trust you're getting maximum value for this. If you are, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Fourthly, we have, consider this question or this equation on the screen right now. How many moles of oxygen react? How many moles of oxygen react? Well, let's identify that. We have O2, which represents oxygen. From the equation, you can see that there is a number 2 standing in front of oxygen. That gives us 2O2. This simply means that we have 2 moles of oxygen, O2. So the answer to that question, how many moles of oxygen reacts, becomes 2 moles. And then secondly, we have, how many moles of water are formed? How many moles of water are formed? Let's identify water. From the chemical equation, we have 2H2O on the far right. So let's identify it. H2O with a number 2 standing in front. So that automatically means that we have 2 moles of water, which is H2O. The answer to that question is also 2 moles of water are formed. Next up, we have a reading for chemical equations. So we are asked to read a chemical equation like a sentence. We have 2SO2 plus O2 yielding 2SO3. So let's begin with the first formula we have. This means 2 moles or 2 parts of sulfur dioxide. I've read that. And then we come to the plus. Plus means reacts with, and then I come to the next thing, which is oxygen. Reacts with 1 part of oxygen, or 1 mole of oxygen, whichever one you like. I'm using a mix of both so that I capture the best of both worlds. 1 part of oxygen, and then we have this arrow. The arrow means to produce or to form, to produce. And then we have 2SO3 to produce 2 moles of sulfur trioxide. So can you see how every part of this chemical equation was carried along in the reading challenge? 2 moles of sulfur dioxide reacts with 1 part or 1 mole of oxygen to produce 2 moles of sulfur trioxide. Let's do the same for the next chemical equation on the screen. We have C, which stands for carbon, plus oxygen O2, and then CO2. Now let's answer this question pretty quickly. We start with carbon. We have 1 mole or 1 part of carbon reacts with, the next is oxygen, which is also 1 mole, reacts with 1 mole of oxygen. And then we come to the arrow to produce 1 mole of carbon dioxide. One mole of carbon reacts with 1 mole of oxygen to produce 1 mole of carbon dioxide. Very easy and straight to the point. I trust you're getting maximum value for what you're seeing in this video. So here is a challenge question that was posted in the last video. Let's handle that. Consider this chemical equation on the screen. So we have aluminium reacting with chlorine to form aluminium chloride. First question says, what is the aluminium to chlorine ratio? Let's handle that. Aluminium stands with a coefficient of 2, so that automatically gives us 2 ratio. And then we have chlorine Cl2 standing with a coefficient of 3, that automatically gives us 3. So the mole ratio of aluminium to chlorine becomes 2:3. This simply means 2 moles of aluminium Al reacts with 3 moles of chlorine Cl. That's just by the way. Next question says, how many moles of chlorine react with 2 moles of aluminium? How many moles of chlorine react with 2 moles of aluminium? So the first thing to do would be to get the mole ratio. For aluminium, we have 2 moles. And then for chlorine, we have 3 moles according to the chemical equation. So this simply means 2 moles of aluminium react with 3 moles of chlorine. And the question says, how many moles of chlorine react with 2 moles of aluminium? Well, from the chemical equation, we know that it is 3. And then finally, how many moles of aluminium chloride are produced? Well, on the far right, we have AlCl3, aluminium chloride, with a 2 standing in front of it, which simply tells us that 2 moles of aluminium chloride are produced. I trust you got massive value for everything that was dropped in this video. If you did, once again, I'm imploring you to like, share and subscribe even as we move on to the next big thing in stoichiometry, which is the mole concept. I look forward to seeing you in that video. Up until then, my name is David and I'm an online chemistry tutor for high school kids. Stay safe, stay blessed, and up until the next video, I'll catch you later.